Hello and welcome to week 18 of Building Kamino. Today we are going to be finishing up the clone training facility and moving on to the left to this room where we will be building the cloning room of Kamino.
Move it, troopers! On the double! Fire!
Okay, so as mentioned, we're going to be working on the cloning room today. I put up a comment, I guess, last week saying, do you want me to put the prison in here or the cloning room in here? And a vast majority of people said the cloning room, so that's what we're going to be working on today. I know a lot of people did want me to build a prison, and I will still do that, most likely in another room of Kamino, probably around this side, back here, in this area. This is a bit of a mess right now, but somewhere in this area I will build the prison eventually. But mainly for the height of this room, I think it was best to get the cloning room in here, just as a large open gap to put it. So that's what we're going to be doing this week. So let's get a design together for the actual cloning machine itself. Okay, so the awkward thing about making this kind of clone machine type thing is that it's a really circular shape, but it needs to have a lot of studs going around the outside to connect all of the little individual pods to. So I've come up with this little design to basically try and get as many outward facing studs as possible in such a small space, because the room's only so big, so therefore I can only make it so tall. And this is the design that I've come up with. You can kind of see how I've got this cross pattern with these bracket pieces going down the sides. In order to fill in the middle section, I've basically got one of these, like if I remove this stud for you, you can see how that's the piece with the bar sticking out the side, connecting into a hollow stud, which is going into a regular stud, which is going into a 2x2 plate, which kind of has that sticking out similar to these things. To basically fill in the gaps, I've got these 1x2 chi slopes on their side, which are connected with other bracket pieces on the underneath, and just these purple chi slopes just to get some colour in there, just for fun, to kind of straighten up all these sections. I'm really happy with how this looks to get this circular shape, and now I'm going to think what I'm going to do to basically, for the top and bottom section, is get some of these large 8x8 dishes, because they perfectly like cover it all up. So I'm going to get these attached now, and we'll see how this looks when it's actually fully all together. And there you have it, that's what it looks like with 8x8 dishes on the top and bottom. I've kind of got this Technic rod running through the bottom because that's how I'm going to attach it to the next one of these pod type things. Looking at the size of the room, I can't actually build that many of these things to fit in, but I think this kind of looks like a pretty fair representation of what these pods look like, especially when I get these circular blue sections on them. Those haven't quite shown up from Brooklink yet, so hopefully they do get here. Sorry for dropping that, by the end of this week's segment, otherwise I'm not going to be able to finish these, but I really hope that I will be able to. But yeah, so hoping I get those in time, but in the meantime let's build another one of these sections to go in the bottom. Okay, so after a little bit I've created a second section. This is kind of going to act as like the bottom section. This is going to be the circular bit that connects to the floor, and it's kind of got another one of these circular sections on the bottom here where I can attach more pods to. And then I'm going to have this like kind of on top of here like this, going upwards. To basically create like the interior middle bit, I've come up with this small design. It looks relatively simple, and it is, but that just attaches to that kind of simply like that, and then this slides into the Technic rods through there, and then I've got another one on top which can go on top of here, and you can kind of really see how this looks like one of those big cloning tower machines, and especially with those pods on, I think this will look really cool. So yeah, I'm a big fan of how this has turned out, and it is small enough so that it can fit into that room, and I'm just hoping that it's tall enough, because if I were to make it any taller this may not actually fit, which wouldn't be great. So let's add this thing into the actual mock, shall we? Okay, now that we're back with the actual room, we've got our cloning machine here, and you can see that it's slightly too tall to fit in, so let's do a little bit of awkward maneuvering to fit that under. Oh, is it going to fit? Oh, there you look at that. It just about fits in there. And there you go, that's the actual cloning machine inside of Kamino. Obviously this isn't a final placement and I need to detail the rest of this room, but you can kind of see what that will look like in the back of the room there. And I think that will look pretty effective when it's all said and done. I I do want to somehow incorporate lights into this cloning room, just because it does light up so much, the actual thing. Whether I'm going to put a light within the actual roof itself or within the actual cloning machine itself, I'll see which one looks better. But yeah, we'll have a think and we'll try out and see which one's best. But in the meantime, I think I'm about to start a live stream where I will be working on this cloning room here. Hopefully I can get the rest of this room done, including the floors and the walls and whatnot. And then afterwards I'll show you how I've done that, and then work on finishing up the training room as well. I think it'll look pretty cool. So let's get to it, shall we? I'll see you after the live stream. Okay, so after streaming for a quick 2 hours, so just a little stream compared to my standards, we've got this done in the actual cloning room, and it may not look like much. That's because I also built something else, which you'll see in a little bit. But here's how it's looking. Here's the actual cloning tower, I guess is what I'm going to call it inside. As you can see, I took down a couple of this stuff. Oh, you can see me in the mirror. Hi, good to see you. You can see what I've been working on over here. And I think it looks pretty good. I've come up with these quite interesting, like, rounded off triangular wall designs, which I think look pretty cool on both sides. And for the floor, I'm considering going with a snot floor. So maybe just raising this up by like a brick just to make it a little bit more interesting. I'm not sure what I'm going to put on the inside of here, and also if I put the droid heads on here, if this will still fit or not, but I still think it looks pretty good, and I'm quite happy with how this is turning out. So I think I may go with the snot floor on this, so I'll put that in just now and show you how it looks afterwards. Okay, it's been a little bit of time and I've now pretty much finished up this room besides some small details in the back. And I believe that we can all see the same issue going on here. It is way too dark in the back. I cannot see anything back there. I don't know if you can actually tell, but I created 2 smaller cloning towers back there. No, you literally cannot see them, but there is 2 smaller cloning towers which I made back there just to kind of give this some depth in the background. And it's basically invisible, it just looks like a black void. I tried to incorporate a light into this section, which I'll turn on just now. And you can see that does help to light things up somewhat better. Like, you can see the main central control pretty well, and you can start to see the back towers a little bit more. But it just isn't giving me the effect that I want it to have. You know how the cloning towers have these really light up pods which are really bright all over the place. That's what I want to have here somehow. So I think I'm definitely going to have to get more lights. I was trying to avoid that for the longest time just because lights can get expensive for mocks, so I just want to try and find the best alternative to get really small ones to put into like each of these individual pods and in these towers, just to really give that cool blue light in the back of here. But besides that, you can see I put in the snot floor, just using some masonry bricks turned around and put on their sides to create a nice little floor, which I think looks pretty good. These wall patterns are now raised a little bit, and I think the figures in here look good as well. My Grand Moff Tarkin, as well as the Kaminoan. The Kaminoans, I move around the mock whenever I need them, essentially. But yeah, I'd call this room pretty much done, just besides the top of this roof, which I'll fill in at some point once I've figured out how I'm going to do the lights, and those actual domes, which are still coming in Bricklink. I have ordered them, so it's just, if they come before the end of this update, I'll put them in there, but if not, I'll just show you them next week. But until then, we've got one more thing to showcase to you, and then we can head to the outro. And you may have seen this sneaking past a couple of times, but this is basically the last thing I've got done this week for Kamino, which is this giant wall section. Ignore the slight mess going in there. But I said last week I needed to get an outside wall to put in here, and that's what I've created. I've used this really interesting design using these wheel fender pieces, which I think looks really cool. But I think it's a pretty nice effect overall, and I've got this other design running up the top too. It's not completely finished and whatnot, but as I said, just I need to figure out some lights and whatnot, and if I'm getting more lights, I do want to light up this room as well, so I'll do that as well. And I've also created a very small door which can just fit into this section as well, just like that. Again, nothing hugely special, but it does the job, I think. But yeah, that's about it for this week's update. Let's get to the outro. And there you have it. Thank you so much for watching this week's episode of Building Kamino. You can kind of see now with an extra light brought in those back towers I was talking about before. They're not great, but they give it some form of depth to show that I've got more than just one tower. If you like this week's update, like the video. That's what the like button's there for. Comment your favourite thing we got done this week, although we didn't get a ton done, but I just have to say the design to get this cloning tower together, I'm really proud of. It'll look especially good once I've got those actual domes on. And if you're new, subscribe so you don't miss next week's update. Next week, I believe we will be moving around to the back side of Kamino and actually rebuilding these walls which we broke down and getting some new rooms in here, so that'll be a lot of fun. But until then, thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it, and goodbye. Okay, so I kind of forgot to ask my live stream chat about doing a clone section this week, so I don't really have one to showcase to you. But I do have this to show you instead. Basically, on the stream this week, while building a different mock besides Kamino, this happened. Kamino looks like it's gonna fall over. Yeah, a lot of people say that, but I promise you, it is stable. Basically what happened was I shook this cabinet, which has a bunch of my Lego pieces in it, leading this wall, which we had just finished working on, to fall off of here, which took down some of the snot walls, which created a giant mess here. This then fell and broke one of my Kamino platforms on the outside, as well as absolutely obliterating my ATST. So that's cute as well. And now he's become the first order one, which isn't great, and now I've got to fix him because his parts are all over the floor. So yeah, that's that. Thanks for watching, guys.